his childhood friend and crush. But just when he thinks he's got everything covered, Takagi asks what he is doing. He immediately hides his prank materials, but Takagi knows this balloon-headed clown too well, so before he gets her, she decides to get his little white Laffy Taffy first. She picks up her pencil case and pretends it's stuck, so the big-headed moron falls for her trick and offers to help open it. However, the instant he does, a monster-faced Jack-in-the-Box pops out, scaring the life out of him and making him scream like a little girl. His scream disturbs the class, so the ugly teacher, who looks like your ex, scolds him for acting like a lunatic. He immediately apologizes for causing a nuisance, but Takagi is already laughing at how stupid she made him look. She tells him his reaction is priceless, but this only fuels Nishi's anger, and he swears to get his revenge. While he is brainstorming his next evil prank like Brain with no pinky, Takagi calls him again, and this time she asks to borrow his eraser. Nishi sees this as a chance to roast her, so he hands it over and calls her a stupid airhead for forgetting her own eraser. In his head, he is expecting her to roll on the floor crying over his comeback, but Takagi just brushes off his roast and that crushes his spirit. But the girl ain't done with him just yet, so she tells a goofy story about how writing your crush's name on an eraser can magically make you end up together. Nishi tells her the story is childish, and there's no way it works, but Takagi pulls out his eraser and starts eyeballing it like she can read something written on it, turning the big-headed Dumbo into a nervous wreck. He wonders if he accidentally wrote Bonnie Blue's name on his eraser, and the suspense starts eating him alive. Once he can't take it anymore, he demands his eraser back, and the second she hands it over, he frantically checks for any name, only to find it's as empty as your bank account. He gets angry and yells at Takagi for messing with him, but a piece of chalk from the teacher beans him dead in his massive skull as a reminder to shut the heck up. Takagi laughs because this is the second time she has successfully gotten him in trouble with the teacher, and then excuses herself to use the restroom. The instant she leaves, Nishi spots her eraser lying helplessly on her desk, so he picks it up and decides to write a boy's name on it so he can make fun of her when she returns. However, when he slides the eraser out a little, he freezes after seeing the letters "Low" already written on it. He gets depressed, thinking she has a crush on Logan Paul instead of him, smirking at his goofy face, making him realize she got him again. She strolls back to her seat all giddy and tells him she enjoys seeing his angry face every time she messes with him. She adds that, just like Dwayne Johnson's terrible acting, everything he does is predictable, and that's why she'll never stop teasing him until the end of time. Nishi swears he'll get back at her someday and give her a taste of her own medicine, but the cold girl tells him to bring his A-game. But what the blockhead doesn't know is that on the other side of the eraser, Takagi had written his dumb name. The next morning, Nishi barely gets any rest and drags himself to school early because he's been assigned day duty. Midway there, he gets a brilliant idea to finally get his revenge on Takagi by rigging her desk, and it makes him smirk like a low-budget Loki. However, his genius plan gets isekai'd straight to the Shadow Realm when he looks up the classroom and sees Takagi already inside waiting for him. But when he gets to class, he doesn't find her anywhere, making him paranoid, thinking she must be hiding somewhere waiting for the perfect moment to get him. Before she does, he decides to get her first, so he starts searching everywhere. However, after several minutes of searching, he still can't find her, decides to chill on his desk, believing he must be hallucinating. But suddenly, Takagi yanks the curtains open and scares the life out of him, causing him to crash hard, and calls him a meathead for being so dumb that he didn't realize she had been hiding behind the curtain the whole time. Nishi gets embarrassed and tries to keep to himself, but Takagi smiles and tells him that with just the two of them alone in class, it feels like they're the only people in the world. She admits she likes it and wouldn't want anyone to ruin the moment, making Bro blush like a middle-aged virgin. However, just when things are starting to get good, three ugly-looking trap queens burst into the classroom and ruin the vibe. The next day, Nishi is in the toilet, desperately cracking his brain to come up with the ultimate revenge prank. While he's at it, some long-headed Squidward walks in and tells him he has the stupidest face in America and should audition to be a clown. Nishi doesn't take it as a diss. Instead, he sees it as a God-given idea to prank Takagi with his funny face and have her laughing so hard the teacher will scold her head off. So when he returns to class, he immediately unleashes his funny face, expecting her to crack up and disturb the lesson. But to his shock, Takagi looks at him like he just popped himself and calmly holds up a mirror so he can witness his disaster of a face in real time. The moron ends up laughing at his own face, and the teacher yells at him to stop disrupting the class and drop out already. Terrified, Nishi immediately apologizes to the teacher, but Takagi can't help laughing at the rib-cracking comedy. She then teaches him how to make an even funnier face, and the clown actually decides to take pointers from her. After he's done restructuring his funny face, Takagi commends him for doing a good job, and then asks him to turn to his side. Nishi obeys but freezes when he sees the busted-faced teacher standing right in front of him. The teacher tries to hold back his laughter after seeing Nishi's punchable face, but quickly regains his composure and angrily yells at him to stop being the biggest loser in class. The following day, it's calligraphy class, and the teacher, who looks like a drunkard, tells everyone to write their favorite word and turn it in by the end of day. Nishi decides he is going to write thick thighs since that's his favorite word, but Takagi proposes they play a little game and just write what they want from each other instead. Nishi agrees and decides on using this as a sneaky way to tell her to quit messing with him. After Takagi is done scribbling down her words, she shows her paper that she neatly crafted with the word status quo. On Nishi's paper, he decides to write restraint, hoping she will get the message, but unfortunately Takagi's brain is just as slow as your own and she didn't get jack. He then asks what the heck she means by status quo that she scribbled down. She explains that it means she wants him to continue being the stupid, gullible fool that he is so she can keep teasing him. Shocked by her response, Nishi realizes the girl is playing offense right off the bat, so he decides to go on the offense too and asks that they do it again. This time, he straight up scribbles down the word kindness to let her know kindness is something that is very far from her. He is banking that this will definitely upset her, but while he is thrilled about this, Takagi turns around and randomly touches his face. She explains that he's got something on it, and bro is fully convinced she is nicer than a $2 hoe who needs his money. So instead of kindness, he decides to just tell her straight up to stop teasing him, but Takagi sees it and tells him that ain't happening, because teasing him is the only thing that tickles her wet flaps. However, she agrees to chill a bit for the time being. Nishi then asks to see what she actually wrote, and she flips it around. It's a note telling him he's got ink smeared all over his dumb face. He quickly checks his face and sees ink all over his finger, and Takagi bursts out laughing. This makes him realize that when she had touched his face to get something off, the mean girl actually did rub ink on it just to prank him. He loses it and yells at her since she just agreed to chill on pranking him, but Takagi keeps laughing and tells him it's a cold world. A few days later in English class, Nishi is deep in his revenge, plotting when the teacher calls on him to read the next line from the passage. Bro freezes like he has ice in his pants because he hasn't been paying attention, so Takagi quietly tips him off that they're on page 16, but the brain-dead canopy head loudly announces that the answer is 16, so the teacher smacks his dome with a chalk for being stupid. Takagi tries to clarify that she was trying to tell him they're reading line 16, but Nishi is dead certain it's just another setup to make him look stupid. Just then, he gets struck with a fire idea for revenge, and that is to distract Takagi so she misses the page the teacher is reading and gets in trouble. To put his plan in action, he starts asking her a bunch of stupid questions to distract her, and Takagi answers back. He is thrilled that his plan is working, and there is no way on earth Takagi will remember the page they're on. Luckily for him, the teacher unexpectedly calls Takagi to read from the top of the next page, and Nishi is expecting her to mess up, but to his shock, she reads the line perfectly. And the teacher commends her for being a good girl. Nishi almost dies of anger, but Takagi, noticing him spiraling, knows that he was trying to get her in trouble, so she makes fun of him. The following day it's swimming practice, but Nishi can't get in the pool because he injured his wrist the day before while gooning hard. While he is beating himself up about it, Takagi rolls up and asks why he's not in the pool, and how exactly his wrist got messed up. Nishi nervously tries to brush off the question, but she accurately guesses that it must be because he was sausage stroking.
You got me.
This pisses Nishi off, so he asks why she is also not swimming and just observing. But then he notices Takagi pressing on her stomach like something's bothering her, which reminds him of something his beaver friend once told him. When a girl skips swim class 9 times out of 10, she's ovulating. To answer his question, Takagi challenges him to guess her reason for not swimming, the same way she guessed his. Not wanting to back down from the challenge, Nishi agrees to make a guess, but he starts sweating, realizing how disrespectful it will be to tell a girl she is on her time of the month. While he is busy overworking his brain cells looking for the best way to say it, Takagi thinks he is busy checking out the busty babes in the pool. Nishi immediately denies it, but that's when he clocks that while she is talking about other girls' bouncy weapons, she is as flat as the back of an iPhone. So he suspects Takagi isn't swimming because she doesn't want to be in a swimsuit with nothing bouncy to show off. Still, he knows it's also rude to outrightly say it, which only makes the situation worse. When Takagi starts pressuring him to make the guess already, he decides the period route is the lesser of 2 disasters. So he quietly mumbles that she's probably on her time of the month, but Takagi tells him he's wrong and then drags him for saying something like that to a girl. Embarrassed, he scrambles to explain himself, but Takagi just laughs at how hard he's fumbling and then strips to her swimsuit. Nishi is surprised, wondering why she'd been sitting out with him the whole time when she could have jumped in with everyone else from the start. But Takagi turns and tells him it's because she just wanted to see his stupid, embarrassed face before she goes for a swim. Later that afternoon, on the walk back from school, Nishi chills with a canned drink while scheming on how to finally get back at Takagi. But midway, Takagi rolls in with her bike and asks that they walk home together. He nervously agrees. And on the way, Takagi casually asks to steal a sip of his drink. Nishi immediately thinks it must be some kind of trap, but he gives her the canned drink to enjoy, hoping that the mention of an indirect kiss will embarrass her. But Takagi is not a virgin loser like him, so she drinks from the can, and Nishi is shocked that her mouth is nasty. She passes it back for him to keep going, but bro locks up like a frozen computer and nearly wets himself at the thought of an indirect kiss. He psychs himself up and goes in for a sip. But the second she reminds him it counts as an indirect kiss, the baby boy gets flustered and fumbles the can. Frustrated, he expertly tosses it into a nearby trash can like a professional basketball player, and Takagi compliments him on how good his aim is. Nishi is also surprised, low-key wondering when he got possessed by the spirit of Stephen Curry. So he grabs a second can to see if he can run it back. Somehow the second one drops in clean too, and now Nishi is dead convinced he can give LeBron James a run for his money. Takagi then decides to try too, but her throw fails miserably, so Nishi wastes no time roasting her for being a failure. Pissed off, she then challenges him to a match, and he laughs, confident there's no way she can beat him while he is on a streak. He tells her, ladies first, and to spice up the match, he declares that whoever takes the L has to do whatever the winner says. Takagi locks in, and as the game kicks off, she lobs the can, and by some voodoo magic, it drops perfectly into the trash like it was guided by God himself. This shocks Nishi to the core and sends fear in him. So, to ensure he doesn't lose, he stands at the same spot and angle as he did on his last 2 successful throws to make this one. However, as he prepares to throw, Takagi mentions she will let him dip his pinky in her sticky. And that filthy little comment distracts him into making the worst throw in human history. He breaks down in tears and accuses Takagi of playing dirty, but she tells him to suck it up and make sure he remembers the terms of the bet. Later, when Nishi gets to his crappy shack, he overhears some motivational speaker on TV talking crap about how he trains 10 times harder whenever he makes a mistake. Inspired by the BS, Nishi decides to train 10 times the number of times Takagi teased him. So, since she got him 15 times, he does the math, lands on 150, and drops down to bang out 150 push-ups. But his oversized dump truck of a head tips the scales and sends him face-planting straight into the floor. The next morning in class, Nishi can't feel his hand because of the little push-ups he did the night before. When Takagi shows up, she asks what's wrong with his arms, and he admits they are sore. So she pricks his sore arms and enjoys watching him squeal in pain like a little girl. After she's had her fill, she asks why his arms are sore, and he tells her he started muscle training recently, but she bets he will quit the training after 3 days. 3 days later, Takagi asks if he is still training, and Nishi shyly admits that he is still on the grind. She compliments him for proving her wrong here and there. Nishi goes dead silent and turns the color of a fire hydrant, so Takagi immediately clowns him for catching feelings over a 2-second compliment. She also admits that he has been looking kinda good lately, and Bro blushes even harder, worsening his situation. Several weeks later, it rains heavily, and Takagi doesn't bring her umbrella, so Nishi capitalizes to score one by calling her a brickhead for being so forgetful. In his mind, he just cooked her with the roast of the century, but Takagi, unbothered, asks if they can share his umbrella since it's as big as his forehead anyway. Walking home together, Nishi is a nervous wreck because somewhere in his head, sharing an umbrella with a girl means they're basically dating. He tries to play it cool, but when it's not working, he figures the only way to stop himself from jittering will be to distract himself. Luckily, he spots a froggy chilling on the fence and smirks as he gets hit with a fire idea for a prank. He quickly grabs the frog and tries to scare Takagi with it, but the girl is ice cold and doesn't even flinch. Instead, she takes the frog from him and starts messing around with it, which sends Nishi's blood pressure through the roof. While he's internally combusting, she drops the frog onto his shoulder and he freaks out like a scared sissy, cracking Takagi up. As they keep moving through the rain, Takagi clocks that his shoulder is soaked, so she tells him to slide closer before he catches a cold. However, before Nishi can respond, she gums him and he climaxes his pants. His nuts are itching, his sausage is heating, but he tries to control himself and starts walking like a dude with a big sack. But when even that doesn't calm him down, he decides to strike up a conversation and starts dragging Takagi for forgetting her umbrella. To his disbelief, Takagi, for the first time, admits that she is actually an airhead for being too forgetful. Hearing her roast herself makes Nishi feel like he just bagged a Grammy for the best comeback of the year, so he starts feeling himself. But Takagi follows up by saying she's been blanking on a lot of things lately, not just the umbrella situation. For instance, she says she has forgotten the word that best describes when couples bump uglies. She asks Nishi to help her out with the word, but the president of Virgin's Alabama district gets flustered and struggles. She enjoys watching him struggle and then continues teasing him with all the love slangs, and the more he gets embarrassed, the more she enjoys it. When the rain finally stops, Nishi immediately suggests they head home separately so she can stop with the teasing. But just as he is about to bounce, she stops him and says she forgot the way home, so she needs his help getting home, making Nishi cry in frustration. The next day, the teacher with a strong face summons Nishi to his office to punish him for being a loudmouth in class lately. His punishment is cleaning the science lab after school, and when school closes, he gets ready to start cleaning. But he's pissed that he is the only one getting punished when Takagi is just as guilty. However, when he opens the locker to grab the broom, he sees Takagi hiding inside and freaks out. Takagi bursts out laughing and admits that being crammed up in that locker for hours was worth it, just to see his face do that. He asks if she was also punished to clean the room, but Takagi brushes off the question and insists they get the task over with. To make it fun, she suggests they play a game of rock, paper, scissors, and the loser for every round will have to clean a quarter of the room. Nishi immediately reasons that he is going to win the 4 rounds and doesn't have to clean anything, so he agrees to play the game. Before they start, she lets him know she is pulling out rock, but he thinks she is capping and just wants to fool him. But when they throw, she pulls out rock, and Bro goes with scissors, earning her the victory in the first round. She makes fun of him because she already announced what she was throwing, and then advises him to trust her more and stop overthinking things. Just then, one of Nishi's homeboys named Nakai, who the producers forgot to give eyes, shows up with his babe to greet him. After they leave, Takagi gossips that Nakai and his girl are definitely heading to the roof to smash, and says she envies them because they are both enjoying their youth, unlike her. Nishi gets anxious because he has no idea what she is talking about, so he pretends like he didn't hear anything. After he is done cleaning the first quarter, they play the second round, and he loses. In fact, Bro ends up losing all 4 rounds and has to clean the lab alone. He tells Takagi that he hopes she'll learn from this punishment and stop teasing him, but she tells him she didn't learn jack. She also reveals that she wasn't even being punished in the first place, and Nishi angrily assumes she just came to make fun of him. She admits that's part of it, but says the real reason she came was to enjoy her youth, making him flustered. On the walk home, Takagi proposes they play another game, and the loser will get to buy a drink for the winner. Nishi agrees, but says this time he would love to decide what game they play. He takes her to the nearby park and says whoever cannot do a kickover on a high bar loses. Since just the day before he tried a kickover and nailed it, he believes this game will be easy peasy, and there's no way Takagi will be able to pull it off. Takagi points out she's in a skirt, and he smirks, expecting her to fold, but to his shock, she agrees to go first. However, she does ask him to face the other way so he doesn't get a free view of her kitty, and then warns that if he peeks, he loses the game. As she is about to start, Nishi turns the other way, and the next second, she finishes and asks him to go next, but Nishi doubts she even did anything. After he struggles to do his kickover, he asks that they do it again, but this time he decides to look to see if she is really pulling off the stunt. So when he realizes she is at it, he turns and is floored to see that she actually pulls it off, but then he notices that she wore sports shorts underneath. After she is done, she asks him to go next, but he feels guilty for breaking the rule and throws in the towel. Taking the L, he buys her the drink, but grumbles that he shouldn't have had to look away when she had shorts on under there the whole time. But she calls him a nasty little degenerate for trying to peep at her fish pie, making him tenses up and starts tripping over himself trying to explain. Later that day, Nishi is locked in watching his favorite show called Unrequited Love. In this show, the protagonist is a crackhead misogynist who loves to play mind games with babes and have them begging to taste his sausage. The following morning, Nishi shows up to class late with a nose mask and claims to have a cold, just to get away with his tardiness. When Takagi asks if he's actually sick, he sweeps his hair back exactly like the protagonist from Unrequited Love and tells her it's nothing serious. He is expecting this will hit Takagi the same way it wrecks the girls in the show, but Takagi already clocked that he pulled an all-nighter binging Unrequited Love. He is surprised that she knew, but doubles down and decides to deploy the ultimate technique he picked up from the show. In the show, whenever the babes start acting out, the twink-looking protagonist calls them cute, and they immediately turn to mush. Nishi plans to use the same tactic to make Takagi blush like a fool, but first he waits for her to try teasing him. The problem is, Takagi decides to go easy on him today since he's supposedly sick. So Nishi sits there waiting for hours and still, she doesn't make any move to tease him. Frustrated, he wonders why she isn't teasing him like she always does. And when he stares at her, he notices how mad cute she is when she is silent. This makes him blush. And when she notices his red face, she asks if it's a symptom of the cold. So he opens up that he didn't catch a cold and it was just an excuse. Now that she knows he's perfectly fine, she decides to proceed with teasing him and ends up making fun of him more than usual. After school that day, the 3 ugly witches of this anime spot Nishi and Takagi in a snack store and decide to say hello. After they part ways, the girls wonder if Nishi and Takagi are a couple, so they decide to tail them to find out. On the way, Nishi suggests they race home, but Takagi suspects they are being spied on, so instead she suggests they duck out of sight to lose the busybodies. The moment they round a corner, the nosy trio sprints after them trying to keep up. But when they get there, they realize Takagi and Nishi had vanished just like their beauty. Frustrated, they give up and head home. While back in the bushes, Nishi is having a hard time in more long ways than one being so close to Takagi. Once they notice the nosy bitches are gone, they pop out from their hiding spot. And Takagi immediately takes the race to the shrine, leaving Nishi behind. A few months later, Nishi's Gooner friends invite him to hang out for Diddy's party, but Nishi refuses because midterms are around the corner, and his grades are on life support. As his buddies angrily leave, Takagi suddenly shows up at the library and sits opposite him. She asks why his gang just marched out of there looking like they got their hearts broken, and he explains the situation. He also quietly reminds himself that he needs to score at least 50% in the upcoming test, or his folks are confiscating his video games. However, the second the words leave his mouth, he thinks he just made the worst mistake of his life by letting Takagi know, since she will use that information to mess with him. So he immediately tells her, "Psych, I lied," hoping this will make her forget what he said, but he gives up when he realizes she registered it the first time. He reasons she will definitely want to tease him and disrupt his avatar state, so he starts thinking of leaving to study elsewhere. He notices she isn't reading for the test, and when he asks why, she reveals that she only studies 2 hours a day. This painfully reminds him that unlike the fogged brain dummy that he is, Takagi is young Sheldon, and still aces tests even without studying much. He then tries to focus on his book, but Takagi suddenly points out that he is solving the math upside down and got the answers all wrong. He quickly tries to figure out where he got it all wrong, but she scoots her chair over to teach him. As she starts pointing out his mistakes, he is surprised that she is teaching him and suspects she must be up to something evil. So he mans up and asks why she has decided to be nice to him all of a sudden. She tells him that even though she loves to serve him a cold plate of roast whenever they are in class, she will feel bad if his grade drops like a future album. Then she surprisingly apologizes for all the time she teased him and encourages him to do his best on the test. Nishi is shocked to hear Takagi apologize, and this makes him believe she must have turned a new leaf. On the walk home from the library, he thanks her and grabs her a juice as a token of appreciation for helping him with his math problems. He is dead confident that everything she taught him is going to carry him. But Takagi casually drops that none of what she covered will actually show up on the test. Nishi is shocked to hear this, so he runs after her to take back his juice. Several weeks later, the midterm results drop, and Takagi scores well enough that the teacher publicly praises her before handing back her sheet. Nishi, on the other hand, scored 59, and he's pissed off that her tutoring session didn't even get him over the passing line. While he is fuming, Takagi suggests they guess each other's score, and whoever guesses closer gets the trophy. He agrees, and Takagi starts by guessing that he probably scored about 50%. He is stunned at how accurate her guess is, but he insists that she make an accurate guess. Takagi then finally guesses that he scored 56%, but Nishi proudly tells her she is wrong and shows her his sheet that he scored 59%. Accepting defeat, Takagi tells him to go ahead and guess her score, and Nishi decides to figure out her score based on her reaction. Since the teacher praised her, he assumes she must have scored above 90%. So he starts his guess with 92%. Takagi responds with an "oh my god" face, but Nishi reasons that she must be faking it and wants to scam him. He doesn't want to fall for her scam, so after using all his brain cells to think, he concludes her score must be 97%. However, when he mentions 97, she shows him that she actually scored 92 like he initially guessed, and then advises him to try trusting her. Days later, Nishi buys the manga version of Unrequited Love and hopes nobody catches him. But as he steps out of the bookshop, he suddenly runs into none other than Takagi, who immediately asks to see the book he just bought. He panics, knowing Takagi will definitely tease him if she finds out that he bought such a steamy manga. So instead, he lies that he bought the latest Marvel comic. Still, she insists on seeing it, and he gets nervous, so he hurriedly tries to get away from her, but she follows him and demands to know if he is lying. While he nervously sweats bullets, she tells him that she already knows that he didn't buy any Marvel comic, but instead bought Unrequited Love. Shocked to hear this, Nishi wonders how she got to find out, and she explains that she saw him cop the manga at the register when she was passing by. He immediately begs her not to tell anyone that he is a hardcore gooner, and she agrees not to, even though he lied to her face. Still, he doubts that she will keep her mouth shut, so to make them even, she decides to tell him a secret of her own. She leans in and whispers that she likes him, and Bro's heart nearly punches through his ribcage. But then she pulls back laughing and hits him with a "psych, I lied." She explains that since he lied to her, this was her way of paying him back, and then walks away. 2 days later, it rains cats and dogs, and the two of them are completely stranded waiting for it to let up. Takagi gets drenched all over, and as she bends over to take off her socks, Nishi sees through her shirt lining and his plot rod thickens. He tries to chill his nerves by looking side to side like a shoplifter so he doesn't get to see her underlining again. She then asks to borrow his sportswear top so she can change, and while she does, Nishi nervously looks the other way. After she is done changing, she proposes they make a bet on whether the rain will stop or not when the town clock strikes 5. The catch is that the loser will get to do anything that the winner wants, and he agrees. When she asks for his bet, he quickly tells her the rain won't stop, so she bets that the rain will stop. Nishi smirks, knowing the bet is a win-win situation for him. If the rain stops, he gets home to watch Unrequited Love, and if the rain doesn't stop, he gets to use Takagi as his dog. After a few hours of waiting, the cloud gives way, the rain stops, and the sun shines brightly, giving Takagi the win. Even though his ego is hurt, Nishi consoles himself that he still gets to go home to watch his favorite anime. However, that joy evaporates instantly when Takagi spins around and proposes they go somewhere together before heading home. He tries to worm his way out of it, but she shuts that down and reminds him that she won, which means he's her dog now. The following week in class, the scary teacher drops the summer vacation announcement and warns the students to keep their pants on. Walking home that day, Nishi is hyped up about the break and can't wait to get back to his nerdy hobbies. But Takagi couldn't care less and is locked in on finishing her homework. On the way, they catch Nakai and his girl doubled up on his bike like a rom-com scene, which hits both Nishi and Takagi right in their pathetic love lives. As they keep moving, Takagi floats the idea of riding her bike together the same way Nakai and his girl did. But Vanilla Ass Nishi shuts it down fast and starts ranting about all the ways it could go wrong. When Takagi clocks him for being a coward with no guts, Nishi snaps back that he isn't scared and then folds like a lawn chair to ride. Settled, they roll out to the vacant lot where Nishi steps up, dead set on proving he isn't the world's biggest sissy. His first attempt at riding the bike goes completely sideways, so Takagi lays down the stakes. If he can't pull it off, he's buying her juice. Scrambling for excuses, Nishi blames Takagi's shapeless cake for throwing off their balance on purpose. Takagi shuts that down and casually drops that the last person she rode with pedaled smooth as butter. That hits different for Nishi, so he nervously asks if her last ride partner was a girl. But Takagi tells him it was a man, which makes Nishi clench up and go full try-hard mode. For a hot second, he actually gets the bike going. Then Takagi reveals her mystery man was her dad, and Nishi immediately eats asphalt. Since he flopped the challenge, Nishi goes to buy Takagi a drink. But when he opens his wallet, he finds nothing but coins rattling around like a broke NPC. When Takagi asks if he wants a drink too, Nishi plays it off and says he's good, but Takagi already clocked that he's a penniless mama's boy and buys him one anyway. He thanks her, and between sips, Takagi suggests they use summer break to lock in their couple bike riding. The next day it pours, but Nishi drags himself to the park for training. Anyway, Takagi shows up not long after, and Nishi's brain nearly short-circuits when he sees how effortlessly hot she looks in casual clothes. One look at the rain-wrecked park, and Takagi suggests they ditch the bike training and hang out instead, but Nishi panics internally because that sounds dangerously close to a date. Being the shy disaster he is, Nishi suggests they go somewhere none of their classmates would ever spot them. So Takagi leads him to a bridge darker than the void inside his crusty gym bag. She announces they're doing a test of courage, and Nishi, desperate to prove his manhood, agrees on the spot. Before they head in, Takagi hits him with a rumor that a ghost lurks inside the bridge, specifically targeting dudes and chopping off their little carrots. She watches Nishi inch toward full-on pants destruction and tells him to man up. Nishi roars that he isn't scared and storms in like a Sigma male, but then the moment he sees how pitch black it is inside, he freezes and realizes he has made a catastrophic miscalculation. Takagi cranks up the damage by producing a paper talisman that repels evil spirits, sending Nishi into a full screaming meltdown. She escalates further by pulling out a creepy drum and telling him it's stuffed with the chopped peeners of past victims. Nishi nervously goes to check for himself, then absolutely loses it when Takagi materializes directly behind him out of nowhere. He tries to go off on her for trolling him, then realizes Takagi has vanished into thin air like his father and starts spiraling. She reappears and taps him on the shoulder, and Nishi releases the most blood-curdling scream of his entire life. Takagi then points out a dark hole in the wall and dares him to look inside. Clocking her angle immediately, Nishi decides to flip the script, so he sticks his hand in and starts yelling that a ghost grabbed him to spook her. But Takagi counters by dropping a lid over her face like a ghost mask and sending him into orbit. Once they finally crawl out the other side, two annoying little goblins spot them and loudly announce they're a couple on a date, turning Nishi's whole face into a tomato. Back home that evening, Nishi cranks out push-ups as self-imposed punishment for letting Takagi clown him all day. The next morning, he's out running errands because Takagi dipped to the Bahamas with her family and ghosted their usual bike training. Mid-errand, though, he clocks a familiar set of cheeks ahead of him and does a double take that it's Takagi. Plotting a prank, he starts tailing her, but Takagi immediately detects the big, dumb idiot lurking behind her and pulls a slick counter. She lures him into a corner and uses her hat as a decoy to scare the life out of him. When she finds out he's grocery shopping, she announces she's heading the same way and suggests they go together. As she tries to grab her hat from the bush, she nearly eats dirt, but Nishi lunges to catch her, and somehow he's the one who hits the ground. He twists his knee on the way down, and Takagi tells him to rinse it off with water. At the park, Nishi cleans up the scrape, and Takagi hands over her handkerchief for him to dry it. He takes it reluctantly, bandages his knee up with it, and Takagi thanks him for trying to save her, and then invites him to cool their feet in the water with her. He blushes, agrees, and Takagi quietly admits she's having the best summer because she got to spend it with someone special, but this dense donkey doesn't even register that she's talking about him. A couple of weeks later, Takagi is at the mall hunting for a swimsuit when she runs into Nishi walking out of a bookstore. His whole body goes into emergency mode because he's carrying his favorite spicy manga, and Takagi is the last human being he needs seeing that. When she asks what he grabbed from the bookstore, he pivots immediately and flips the question back on her. She tells him she came for a swimsuit, and those two words alone send his brain into a full system crash. He starts turning red, and Takagi cheekily asks what style of swimsuit he's into, but he mumbles that anything works for him. Desperate to escape the awkwardness, Nishi tries to bounce, but Takagi catches him and asks to borrow the spicy manga he clearly bought, confirming she already peeped him at the register. He denies it on the spot, and when she pushes to see what he actually bought, he cooks up a lie about purchasing a comic called Robot Zombie, starring Joe Biden as a zombie going against the Terminator. She sees straight through the cap, so when she demands proof, Nishi scrambles and proposes a bet to throw her off the trail. He suggests they wager on whether he bought a spicy manga or not, and the loser does whatever the winner says. Takagi agrees, and he flips his hair for a confidence boost, hoping to plant a sliver of doubt, and then asks what she's betting on. She bets her left kidney he bought a spicy manga without blinking. And that's the moment Bro finally grasps that this girl knows him better than his own mother. Cornered with zero options, Nishi surrenders the manga and prepares to take his L home. Takagi stops him though and demands he come help her pick a bathing suit, and before he can fight it, she reminds him that losers do whatever the winner wants. They arrive at the swimsuit section shortly after, and Takagi asks for Nishi's opinion on which one to go with. To bury his flustered face, he tells her anything will look fine since she's not exactly working with a meaningful plot down there. Since he refuses to commit to a pick, Takagi says she'll start trying them on. She comes out in the first one and asks what he thinks, and Nishi says he has no clue, so she heads back in and vows to keep going until he gives her an actual answer. While he's waiting, Nishi spots his Nakai and his pipsqueak girlfriend also swimsuit shopping nearby and immediately panics. Minutes later, Takagi emerges in a different one to get his verdict. But the moment she clocks the weird couple, she ducks back behind the curtain and hides her swimsuit like it's classified intel. Glancing down, she notices Nishi's broke boy slides poking out from another dressing room and immediately puts it together. Nakai's girlfriend also clocks the slides and figures out the whole situation, so she quietly drags her boyfriend away. Once the coast is clear, Takagi yanks open Nishi's dressing room curtain and roasts him for hiding in there. Right on cue, she fans out a bunch of dumpling holders in front of his face and tells him to pick one, but he's squirming in embarrassment, so she suggests they go on a swimming date at some point. That weekend at the park, Nishi and Takagi wrap up their regular bike training, and with nothing left on the agenda, Takagi suggests they knock out their summer homework together. Nishi shuts that down immediately, claiming he already has something going on, but the second Takagi offers to let him copy her work, the coconut brain agrees without hesitation. He asks where they should do it. A short while later, they show up at his house. Takagi is visibly nervous, and he walks her straight to his goon cave. Takagi notices him shaking like a busted old Nokia, asks if he's okay, and Nishi insists he's fine. Scanning his room, she lands on his massive spicy manga collection and asks if he's really into reading that kind of thing. Nishi short-circuits and thinks she's asking if he likes her, but Takagi clarifies she's talking about his manga taste, then compliments how his room smells exactly as disgusting as he does. Nishi deads the topic fast and suggests they get into the homework, but since there's only one chair in his room, Takagi proposes they use his bed instead. It makes him uncomfortable, but he agrees, and he immediately reminds Takagi about her promise to let him copy her answers. She confirms the deal is still live, then pulls out a writing drill book and announces that's the only thing she brought. He registers that he has been bamboozled for the 100th time in this anime, while Takagi is crying, laughing at how easy he is. Mid-homework, Nishi fumbles an answer because his brain keeps wandering to places it shouldn't go. He reaches for the eraser and accidentally locks hands with her, turning the entire moment into a full rom-com cutscene. Before he can combust, he rips his hand back and speed runs to the bathroom for some personal decompression time. Hours later, they finish their work and Takagi heads out, promising she'll come back to visit, leaving Nishi standing there in complete disbelief that a girl has stepped foot inside his shack for the very first time. Over the following weeks, Nishi makes serious strides learning to ride a bike with Takagi. Back then though, whenever Takagi gripped his waist for balance, it sent shockwaves straight to his Willy Wonka, so he told her to cut it. To fix the issue, Takagi took over the handlebars and told him to hold her. However, he'd want to be held himself. Sitting behind her, Nishi gets completely hypnotized by her Laffy Taffy and zones out hard. But Takagi snaps at him to hurry up, so he panics and drops his hand on her shoulder. In the present, Nishi has finally cracked the bike riding code, but Takagi touching his waist still sends him into a ticklish spiral every time. Now that he's a certified biker, Takagi tells him there's no point in meeting at the park anymore, then drops that summer vacation is nearly cooked. The following week, a gnarly typhoon swallows the whole city, and Nishi still drags himself to school without a second thought. If anything, this maniac is standing in the middle of that howling wind, which makes him feel like an untouchable god. Mid-performance, as the self-proclaimed king of the wind, Takagi walks up behind him and wonders out loud whether she should be dialing a psychiatric facility. Caught being an absolute clown, Nishi scrambles and claims he was checking wind direction, but Takagi couldn't give less of a damn about his excuse. She still calls out that he's capping, does a full recreation of his King of the Wind nonsense, and then asks if he notices anything different about her. Nishi stares her down and clocks that she doesn't have her bike, and Takagi confirms he's right. She then asks him to explain why, and before he answers, she sweetens the deal that if he gets it right, she will keep his unhinged behavior between them. To make it spicier, she gives him until the plastic bag blowing down the road reaches them to answer. His brain immediately flags that there's a catch somewhere, and the answer can't be that obvious if Takagi is being this serious about it. After burning through every last brain cell, he lands on the theory that Takagi skipped the bike because the typhoon wind would send her skirt flying, but that answer is way too spicy to say out loud, so he says nothing and lets the bag drift past. Since he forfeited, Takagi reveals the answer is simply that riding a bike in a typhoon is dangerous, then tells him to stop making everything complicated. Walking to school through the brutal wind, Takagi keeps replaying and mocking his King of the Wind bit, dragging Nishi to the edge of his sanity. A few days later, the school drops a mandatory marathon on all students. Nishi's big-headed friend and his beaver-toothed sidekick are devastated, but Nishi sees it as his golden window to finally smoke Takagi in something, and reclaim his dignity. When the race kicks off, Nishi's game plan is to conserve energy and cruise at a comfortable pace. He's been putting in evening jogs for weeks leading up to this, so in his head, Takagi beating him is a scientific impossibility. Then Takagi pulls up beside him, clowns him for running like a baddie, and blows past him, sending Nishi's whole strategy into a crisis. Panic floods in as Nishi imagines Takagi maintaining that pace all the way to the finish, so he kicks it up a gear to close the gap. He eventually pulls level, but Takagi cranks up the drama by declaring that if he can touch her, he wins the whole thing. 2 seconds later, she sonics into the distance and Nishi gives chase. He pumps the brakes though when it dawns on him that grabbing Takagi in front of the whole school is a terrible look, and that's when it clicks that he's been played again. His only move now is to gas her out, so Nishi fires back with a counter bet that if she gets 50 meters ahead of him, she wins. Takagi agrees, runs a few steps, then immediately declares herself the winner, leaving Nishi looking confused. He spins around and spots the sign marking the girls' finish line right there, while the boys' race continues and he crumbles, realizing he got scammed in real time. Much later, walking home, Nishi is still stewing over the Takagi con job, so she tickles his ribs to cheer him up and he writhes around like a little creature. After complaining about how much he despises being tickled, Nishi gets struck by an idea. He challenges Takagi to a mutual tickle battle where whoever laughs first loses. Takagi agrees and Nishi grins because he's convinced he's finally cooked up a winner. He sizes up the situation and realizes she's at a structural disadvantage, as both hands on the bike means her ribs are wide open with no defense. While he's running the numbers, Takagi warns him her ribs have been fully desensitized, then tickles him, and Nishi barely holds the laugh in. Convinced she's bluffing, Nishi moves in to tickle her but freezes when his brain reminds him that this might cross a line. When Takagi threatens to go straight for his ticklish waist, Nishi scrambles backward to dodge it. Right then, it dawns on him that challenging Takagi to this game was one of the dumbest ideas his brain has ever produced. To force a draw, Nishi keeps a safe distance. Then Takagi starts making the most unhinged faces at him, and he completely folds into laughter. That's the loss confirmed, and Nishi owes Takagi one punishment for choosing. After a dramatic pause, Takagi stops her bike and declares she wants him to poke her ribs. As Nishi lines up the poke, his mind goes to war with itself because this is the first time in recorded history he has touched a girl's waist area. He powers through the mental barrier and pulls it off, but Takagi immediately points out that this only confirms her ribs are untickleable. Then she casually mentions that her armpits are a completely different story, and Nishi short-circuits entirely. That night, Nishi gets his very first mobile phone and is absolutely losing it with excitement. First thing the next morning at school, he adds his 2 loser friends on WhatsApp. When Takagi spots the new phone, she asks to check it out and Nishi hands it over. While she's looking through it though, his brain is already cooking up ways to use this phone to prank her. So later that day, walking home, he starts stressing over why Takagi hasn't asked for his WhatsApp contact yet. Without her number, he can't run the prank, and the thought of asking her for it himself like a grown man fills him with existential dread. When he builds up to asking, his courage evaporates on contact, and he crashes out like the world's most tragic beta. Takagi watches his face turn redder than a fire hydrant, and figures he's trying to say something. When he denies it, she immediately guesses he wants her WhatsApp contact. Since she's already done the heavy lifting, Nishi hops on the opportunity like the opportunistic freeloader he is and slides in an indirect request for her number. But Takagi roasts him for not having the spine to ask straight up, then calls out that he probably wants her contact to run some kind of prank on her. Exposed with nowhere to run, Nishi folds and admits that was the whole plan, and watching him crumble like a soggy biscuit sends Takagi into a full laughing fit. She tells him she clocked that from the start, but agrees to share contacts anyway. After they swap numbers, she informs him that his attempted trickery earns him a punishment,